So I've got another problem that is actually quite similar to the problem in the homework, and except for I've constructed it for the bike rental market again. So I've made an important change. Oh, I still didn't change the spelling on counselors. That's spelled right. It's just my crappy handwriting. That's the problem now. All right, you guys don't care about that. All right. So the big change here is that price is just a flat line at 40. I did that. Makes it a little bit easier and also makes it correspond to the homework problem quite a bit quite a bit more tightly. So here we've got this same demand function as before. Now just a flat line at 40 for the supply, and that now to encourage fitness, the city government subsidizes each bike rental by giving buyers $10 for every bike they rent. So it's something that would cost consumers $40 instead costs them $30. All right, so let's analyze this. I've started by drawing the basic market demand and market supply, and of course our new feature here is the flat line at 40. The market outcome is still at 30 bikes rented and a price of $40 per bike. Let's go ahead. Well, I've got to analyze the case first before I start writing consumer and producer surplus. Let's change color pen. We'll go to red this time. Now, with the $10 subsidy, the price buyers have to pay falls to 30, and we'll just call it S prime. And as a result, they demand 35 bike rentals per day, and we're going to need this little line here. And as far as the welfare goes, we'll go A, B, C, D. And I'll show you why we need area D in just a moment. Now we're going to tabulate our well-being in under the market outcome without a subsidy, and then the market outcome with the subsidy, and then we'll look at the changes. All right, what happens? In the original case, consumers pay 40 for a rental, the area below the demand curve above the market price, area A, that's consumer surplus. There is no producer surplus. Notice that it costs them $40 to offer a bike for rent, and that's what they get. It's no producer surplus. Government revenue, there's no government revenue. Total surplus in the economy is area A. Now, along comes this subsidy. So with the subsidy, price again falls to 30, and we see that the area under the demand curve and above the new price line is area A, B, C. Consumers gain areas B and C. So if that were all that happened, they'd be happy. But and let's move on. There's still no producer surplus, so there's no change. But government has to fund the subsidy program. So we enter government revenue as a positive if the whatever the policy is generates revenue. The government can either provide government services that are valuable to the citizenry. Presumably, we're assuming the government doesn't burn the money in a barbecue pit or otherwise waste it. But things the government does, protecting food quality, paying for the police force, and government at all sorts of different levels does things that people want. They're trying to get elected. Not to say there aren't bridges to nowhere built, but anyway, if the government has to spend money, well, the government's going to have to tax that money away from somebody, and that's money that would have been spent by those people, and so people lose purchasing power. So we enter revenues in the welfare calculation as positive, and we enter expenditures as a negative. And what happens here is that the government needs to spend $10 on every bike rental, and there's 35 bike rentals, so the total expenditure is $10 times 35 rentals, the area in red here, outlined in red, otherwise known as BCD, but since it's a government expenditure, we enter it as a negative, and there we have it. So notice that as we total, well, the new policy costs taxpayers at large dollars equal to area BCD. So notice that the new total ABC minus BCD, positive BC cancels with negative BC, and we're left with A minus D. And we look at the difference between under the market and under the subsidy. There's deadweight loss of D. So you're getting the pattern here. When you use this tabulated welfare analysis, deadweight loss almost always ends up, well, pretty much always ends up kicked out in this bottom right square, bottom right cell. So if the people renting the bikes are also the people paying the taxes, then this is not such a great policy for them, right? Because they get lower cost bikes, but the money they have to pay in taxes is more than offsets the consumer surplus gain from riding the bikes more. So it's and getting to rent bikes for cheaper. So if the same people riding the bikes are paying the taxes, this is a really bad deal. What the game is in government, federal government anyway, is you try to get the feds to pay for projects in your home district and get the rest of the country to pay for them. And so I guess most of you are able to vote. If you're registered to vote, you get mail from your congressperson and from your senator, and they're always talking about how much spending, if you're a resident in Oregon, how much spending they brought to Oregon, or First District Oregon, how much spending they brought to First District Oregon. And it always drives me a little batty because the fact is there shouldn't be projects undertaken that costs more than the increase in social value. Now, sometimes government projects do increase social value, sometimes they don't, but that's the criterion. Build a bridge if the benefits of the bridge are greater than the cost of the bridge. The costs inclusive of any inefficiencies the government body introduces by collecting the taxes. But instead, the Congress people are acting like all the projects only yield benefits and there's no cost because people outside the district pay for the cost. Well, that's just a recipe for gigantic and inefficient government. All right, so that's this screencast. That's a wrap.